So thanks for checking out the video today. We're going to be talking about mastering in a hybrid studio environment. We're going to go over some basic kind of bullet points about session setup, and I'm going to show you what I do, and maybe this can help you in what you do, or maybe show you what not to do if you think so. Whatever. Now, the song that we're going to be using today is Help Myself. It's a song I've written and recorded. I did another video on it where I mixed it. I'll put a link to it in the description or in a card at the end or right here or whatever. I set up, did it. Didn't really realize that I had made an error until I hit the editing phase. So now I've got the session pulled up behind me here, and we're going to kind of walk back through what I did, and I'm going to talk about some of these bullet points and stuff like that. Do some A/B with the gear and with the plugins. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, and let me know what you think in the comments. So what I've got in front of me here, to start with, very simply, is the left-right print track from the previous video. Just the mix. We can see the waveform here. When setting up a mastering session, it's important to note that you're working with generally I like to work with just stereo tracks. Sometimes you might have some stems, like you might get 3 stereo tracks or 4 stereo tracks, something like that, but you're not trying to mix anything. So this is a good point to note that as you listen to it, if you feel like you want more bass or you want more vocal or something like that, or guitars, unless what it is that you're trying to get more of, you have it on a separate track, which at that point it's basically mixing, or it doesn't share a frequency range with any of these other instruments, you'll be boosting or cutting those instruments at the same time. For example, in this song, if I want to get more bass, I have to also bring up the bottom of the guitars. I also have to bring up some of the bottom of the vocals and the kick drum, maybe even the snare drum a little bit, depending. But you're working with what you have. You might have to turn back to the mix engineer and say, hey, I need something changed here. You have to go back to the mix phase and change something there. The master is subject to the mix and its attributes. That's all I'm trying to say. So in ProTools, Control Plus brings me up to the mix window, and I generally set my mix sessions and my mastering sessions up like a large format studio. Generally, there's some sort of tape plugin or some sort of emulation plugin, and then into a console like channel strip. If we look at Pro Tools, I have a tape machine is like very first, a bus summer, and then also, like I was just saying, a channel strip. This is the SSL-G channel. Doing nothing but taking a little bit of trim back on this bus summer. I've got some drive. Part of adding drive and saturation into a master, it kind of brings up the noise floor and can make it seem a little louder. It can make it brighter or darker, but that's where you can start using EQ for sweetening purposes to tweak and bring these things up, make things clearer or make things boomier or bassier or less boomy or bassier and those kinds of things. From there, it comes to my console. I have no gain on the line inputs on this, but I do use the EQ. I make sure that I'm not pushing the channel hard, so that way when I actually start to use EQ, if it is pushing, that way when I start to use EQ, I'm not actually driving that channel too hard. I then do drive it through the busing of the console. Oops, coffee. I do get some saturation from driving the signal through the buses of the console itself a little bit. Some say that's just noise, some say it's not. I'm not trying to lose any signal here, I'm just trying to create harmonics. I'm using some parallel compression in the analog realm because I want to keep the headroom of what I have here now, but I'm trying to add the sound of this compressor and everything kind of hitting it together to, again, bring up the noise floor a little bit, add some saturation, and increase that perceived loudness a little bit. Back into Pro Tools, coming into the Motu and into actually an aux input, where I then will send that to a audio track where I will record. I think that plugins in real time just sound different. So now, I'm gonna go through some quick A's and B's. Just kind of from beginning to end, what's, blank and kind of vanilla here, and then we're going to add the EQs, plugins, the outboard gear, and so forth, and then we're going to print the track. Here we go. the shit on that wasn't supposed to be on. So first up here, we're just going to play the track without any plugins or EQ or external gear or anything like that, so we get an idea where it is. Drop in. So I'm going to add our first set of plugins. Notice that our volume comes down a little bit because, again, this is gain control, so that way I'm not coming in too hot onto the console. Okay, without. With. Now I'm going to add the external gear, starting with the EQ, and then I'm going to move over into the compressor, and actually the EQ that is on the channels for the compressor as well. So we're going to start with EQs off. Here we go. Okay, we're gonna add the bus compressor without its EQ. Without it. With it. I'm gonna add its EQ. Okay, now we've got a lot of plugins here on our aux input, and they are all doing very little things. Nothing is doing any really super major sculpting. There are a couple different compression types that I'm using here. There's compression to level, and then there's compression to limit. Or just limit if you want to. I'm limiting at the very end of what I'm trying to do because I don't want to limit my headroom before it gets to the end of the signal chain. So I'm going to level certain parts of the track and what's going on, but I'm not trying to actually sculpt or like really, like saw off any kind of waveforms or anything like that. So again, we have just our first three plugins are again our like large format studio kind of idea. Treating these just very simple. EQ, this one is just on. I'm not even turning it up or down. SSL comp is coming in very lightly. Pultec again is very like subtle changes and sweetening of EQs. I'm not sculpting anything here. I'm just trying to argue for what's there and increase it sonically to my taste and ears and what I think it needs. Okay, the API 2500 plugin, again, very simple. We'll pop that up while it's running and then back into, again, a console channel to our tape emulator. So here it is without it, and then when I bring it in, just note that it's going to get louder. Okay, with it. Without and with. Okay, so now let's do some big A-B comparisons, right? I have our original track set up here ready to listen, and then I have where we are now set up and ready to listen. So here we go. Let's do some A-B. So here's what we start with. Okay, we're going to switch over. All right, now we're going to switch back. If you're looking at the faders in Pro Tools, you may notice that their sample peak is relatively the same. It's not clipping, but it's right up there into the 0 decibel mark. after, you know, compression to level and EQ, and then limiting at the very end, we've added saturation and we've brought up our noise floor and our perceived loudness. At the same time, we're holding a little bit of dynamics. Being said, this song I have set up, recorded, and mixed to be kind of a level song as far as dynamics. I want it to be a little bit louder, and I want it to kind of more be a little bit the same. It's guitars and rock. I'm not necessarily looking for some super low lows and some super high highs. Vocals stick out. You're listening to guitars and the beat and things like that. That's what I'm aiming for. So let's print this. I'm just going to fast forward this for your sake, but re-record armed, input enabled. There's a pre-roll. I'm just not going to turn that off right now, and there we go.
Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and let me know what you think in the comment sections below. And if you want to check out more about what's going on here at the channel, subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notifications on about what's happening when it's happening. Hope to see you soon. See you later.